Welcome, everyone, to what feels like a really immediate, almost real-time look at events unfolding right now. Just 72 hours ago, literally, we were talking about a worrying development in Nepal, this government-mandated social media ban.
Yeah, it seemed significant, but maybe, contained
Yeah,
an isolated issue.
exactly. But things have escalated, just breathtakingly fast since then. That whole idea of it being isolated, gone. The entire political landscape in Nepal has been shaken up.
It really has. What started as what looked like a digital clampdown, an attempt to control the narrative online, has dramatically turned into this pivotal moment, a real turning point.
Yeah, we're not just talking about a ban anymore, which, by the way, has since been lifted. Today, we're looking at the actual collapse of a government.
And it's partly fueled by that very ban, but also, crucially, we're seeing the rise of this new generation, Gen Z, who seem absolutely determined to challenge decades of systemic corruption.
That's right. So our subject today is the last 72 hours in Nepal, government resignation, protests, and anti-corruption. And we're drawing heavily on a brand new article just published by David Ways.
Ah, yes, the Nepal guidebook author. He's really well known, very respected.
And he's been on the ground in Kathmandu, witnessing all this firsthand, reporting with incredible detail. It's definitely a situation still unfolding.
It is.
But, and this is really important for anyone perhaps planning travel or just concerned, David's assessment from the ground is clear. There's no danger to tourists right now.
That's crucial reassurance.
And the international airport in Kathmandu, it had some temporary disruption, sure, but it's fully open and operating normally again, so travel should be okay.
Good to know. And today we'll be digging into this comprehensive timeline David's laid out. It really connects the dots, doesn't it? Decades of underlying problems leading up to these last 3 incredibly intense days.
Yeah, it's more than just a news update. We're trying to explore the forces, the history, the politics that brought Nepal to this, well, this dramatic point.
And also looking at what might come next, especially with this unexpected rise of Gen Z as a political force.
Okay, let's get into it. So it really does feel like yesterday, because it basically was that the big news was Nepal's government moving to block, 26 social media platforms.
That's right. The ruling came down on September 4th. The official reason was vague something about tackling undesirable content.
Which immediately raised flags, right?
Yeah.
Not just for free speech folks, but anyone who knows how important these platforms have become in Nepal for, well, for expressing discontent. What were the immediate thoughts on the implications?
Well, what's just fascinating, and maybe a lesson for governments everywhere, is how fast that specific decision became a flashpoint, a real trigger.
Not just another policy annoyance.
No, not at all. It wasn't isolated. It acted like a catalyst, didn't it? Igniting this frustration that was already simmering away, especially among the youth, Gen Z.
And they were already active online, weren't they? Talking about corruption.
Oh, absolutely. Throughout 2024, they'd been actively using these platforms, TikTok, Facebook, you name it, to post about the daily corruption they were seeing. It was their main tool for, expression, organizing, trying to hold people accountable.
And David's article mentions this specific hashtag, #NepoBaby. That really caught on, didn't it? Tell us about that.
Yeah, hashtag #NepoBaby was, well, it was pretty clever, actually. It was Gen Z's way of directly calling out the lavish lifestyles of political families.
Showing off wealth that seemed way beyond official salaries?
Exactly. They used memes, short videos, satire, very typical Gen Z tools to make a powerful point. It wasn't just complaining, it was a direct, very visible challenge to the establishment. Witty, sharp, and it bypassed traditional media.
Which many probably saw as compromised anyway.
Right. It went straight to the public, creating this shared sense of outrage. This simplicity of the hashtag was key, instantly relatable if you're struggling with daily economic life in Nepal.
So the government tries to shut down undesirable content with this ban.
And they completely miscalculated.
They underestimated this generation's resourcefulness.
Totally. The ban, meant to suppress, just poured gasoline on the fire. It fueled the very outrage they wanted to control. By trying to silence them online, the government, maybe inadvertently, maybe catastrophically, pushed them offline.
Straight into the streets.
Exactly. It turned that online dissent into organized physical protest almost overnight, that digital wall they tried to build. It became a launchpad for the protests. It really shows, doesn't it, that trying to silence digital natives can just accelerate the backlash. A major miscalculation.
Okay, so to really grasp the intensity here, the scale of the protests, the violence, the government actually collapsing, we need to step back. Like you said, this isn't just about a social media ban.
No, it's a culmination.
It's decades of frustration building up, isn't it? corruption, this feeling of being let down again and again.
Right. If you connect it to the bigger picture, Nepal's politics have been, well, pretty unstable for a long time, since the monarchy ended, really.
King Gyanendra, removed in 2006. Monarchy formally gone in 2008. That was meant to be a new dawn, right? Democracy, progress.
That was the hope. But what actually followed was just extreme political volatility. Government after government cycling through, shifting allegiances, sometimes pro-India, sometimes pro-China.
But always with this undercurrent of corruption.
Always. That seemed to be the one constant. And David's article really highlights the fragmentation between 2008 and 2014. Multiple governments, and get this, over 120 political parties.
Wow, 120. In a country the size of Nepal.
Exactly. It created this environment where coalition governments were inherently shaky. The focus wasn't on governing, it was on power brokering, getting positions, personal gain. Corruption just became, well, the article says it became the norm.
And this instability led to these things called banda strikes.
Yes, bandits became incredibly common, almost institutionalized, you could say. And
Right.
These weren't just minor disruptions.
Not like a one-day transport strike.
No. These were widespread shutdowns. They could last for days. Entire cities just paralyzed. Shops forced shut, transport halted, schools closed, businesses shuttered, everything grinding to a halt.
And what were people protesting during these bandows?
All sorts of things. Chronic power outages, we'll get into that. Fuel shortages, tax hikes, sometimes, ironically, protesting the fact that the powerful weren't paying their taxes.
And these often turned violent.
Very often, clashes between protesters and police were frequent. Tear gas, batons, rubber bullets. And tragically, David's reporting confirms even live ammunition was used sometimes. Lives were lost.
So these weren't just political statements, they were dangerous.
Absolutely. And the cumulative impact, huge economic cost. Lost wages, lost productivity, lost education. It just kept the country in this state of constant uncertainty, hindering any real progress.
You mentioned power outages. David's article highlights load-shedding scheduled power cuts. Up to 19 hours a day. That sounds almost unbearable.
It was. Imagine nearly your entire day without electricity. Hospitals were massively affected. David mentions surgeons operating by emergency lamps, the constant risk. He says, yes, people died during power failures. It's chilling.
And for everyday life.
Businesses crippled. Students couldn't study at night, candles, kerosene lamps, if they were lucky. Dentists working in the dark. Plus, the fluctuating voltage fried electronics phones, laptops adding financial strain. Generators were only for the very rich.
So it wasn't just an inconvenience, it was debilitating.
Absolutely. A constant drain on health, well-being, the economy. And all through this period, prime ministers came and went, Dahal, Koirala, struggling for stability against this backdrop of corruption and suffering.
It just seems incredible that even something like the 2015 earthquake, a massive national tragedy, didn't unify the country but actually became another source of anger.
That's such a critical point. It really cuts to the heart of the sense of betrayal. I mean, the numbers were devastating, nearly 10,000 dead, hundreds of thousands homeless.
And the world responded, right? Huge aid pledges.
Over 4.4 billion US dollars pledged internationally. A massive amount, meant for relief, for rebuilding.
But it didn't reach the people who needed it.
That's the heartbreaking reality David describes. Ordinary people who'd lost everything, got tangled in bureaucracy, couldn't rebuild because of inspection delays, needed permits, unless they paid bribes.
Well, the aid money.
Exactly. Accusations started flying. Stories of NGOs, government bodies spending lavishly on, quote, creature comforts, fancy vehicles, office upgrades, buying overpriced equipment. It's just a complete lack of transparency about where billions of dollars actually went.
Leaving people homeless and desperate while officials lived well.
It was a betrayal on a national scale, right when people were most vulnerable. And significantly, KP Sharma Oli, the prime minister who just resigned, was PM back in 2015 during that earthquake aftermath.
Wow, so that ties this history directly to the present. It showed the system wasn't just failing, it was actively harmful, even during a disaster.
It cemented that deep cynicism, the feeling of what to do. Basically, nothing can be done. But then things started happening that made the corruption undeniable, even for those who'd become resigned to it.
Like the electricity scandal.
Yeah.
That sounds like a major turning point.
It really was. In 2016, Kulman Gising takes over the Nepal Electricity Authority, the NEA. And David reports that within 24 hours, just one day, he uncovered this massive corruption.
Well, 24 hours, what did he find?
He found that the decade of crippling load shedding, those 18, 19-hour power cuts, it wasn't because of lack of infrastructure or power generation.
No.
No, it was deliberately engineered. Electricity was being illegally sold off to big, politically connected companies, bypassing the grid, starving the public of power.
And the proof?
The proof was immediate. Load shedding stopped, almost overnight. Went from 18 hours down to just a few, then practically zero. It was stark, undeniable proof. Your daily reality changes completely instantly. It showed people their suffering wasn't inevitable. It was created by the elite. A massive blow to trust.
That must have been infuriating. And this wasn't just a one-off thing.
No, it fit a pattern. Around the same time, 2016, 2018, you saw this surge in what David calls unaccountable investment and political donorship.
Like what?
Suddenly, new airports are being planned, loads of new helicopter companies popping up, fancy hotels being built, especially in Kathmandu, often sitting empty, all fueled by these huge, unaccountable donations. It just screamed questionable money, benefiting a select few while everyone else struggled.
And then the trekking helicopter scam in 2018. That sounds like it went international.
It did because it involved insurance fraud on a big scale. An international investigation found this scam where truckers were basically being forced or tricked into unnecessary, expensive helicopter rescues.
To claim insurance money.
Exactly. The insurance payouts were being siphoned off. The report named names, owners, companies, and surprise, surprise, most had political connections. There was an internal investigation, promises of action.
But nothing really happened.
Pretty much. Just another example of high-level corruption seemingly going unpunished, further eroding trust.
Feels like it permeated everything, even tourism, which is so vital for Nepal.
Absolutely. Around the same time, in the Everest region, Solukhumbu, local authorities actually stopped recognizing the official TIMS trekking permits.
Why?
They said the funds collected from the TIMS cards were being misused, basically corruption. But the national bodies, TIAN and the Nepal Tourism Board, kept collecting the fees from trekkers anyway, even though the permits weren't valid locally.
So collecting money for nothing, essentially.
It looks that way, just highlighted the brazenness, the lack of accountability. And again, it's worth noting, KP Sharma Oli started his second term as PM in 2018, presiding over this period of exposed corruption and growing discontent.
So all this history, the instability, the blackouts, the earthquake aid betrayal, the scams, it built this mountain of frustration. And the average Nepali just felt betrayed.
Deeply, leading to that cynicism, that weary what to do attitude. But underneath, the anger was simmering, and then you had other economic shifts adding fuel to the fire.
Like the push for Chinese tourism.
Right. Between 2018 and 2020, there was this big influx of funds to promote Nepal to China free visas, discounts. But it had the side effect David mentions. Chinese business people marrying locals, having kids, and then putting land and businesses in their children's names.
To get around foreign ownership laws.
Seems like it. And it led to local Nepali businesses really suffering, priced out of rent, unable to compete, huge resentment there.
And then COVID hit. How did that play into things?
Well, like everywhere, it hit the economy hard, especially tourism. But it also seemed to worsen inequalities. Smaller businesses that couldn't survive the lockdowns, they got snapped up by larger, wealthier, and crucially well-connected businesses. More economic power concentrated at the top.
And even after COVID, the questionable stuff continued.
Yeah, like in 2023, they brought back the mandatory TIMS card for solo trekkers. You had to have a guide, pay for the USD $20 card again.
But David's article says.
Exactly. He highlights that none of the TIMS checkpoints had actually reopened, so it looked like fees were being collected again without any real oversight or service provided, just cemented that perception of questionable practices.
So this whole long history, decades of it, built the foundation. And then in 2024, Gen Z starts using social media. The hashtag #NepoBaby hashtag takes off, calling out corruption directly.
And the government's response, the social media ban in late 2024.
Which directly connected all that historical frustration to the present moment, unleashing Gen Z's anger.
Absolutely. The ban was the spark on all that dry tinder. And everything just converged dramatically in these last 72 hours. David's article gives this incredible, almost minute-by-minute account of how fast it all spiraled.
Right, so the Gen Z protest planned for Monday, September 8th against corruption that was the tinderbox. And the government's preemptive ban on September 4th was the spark. Walk us through Monday.
Okay, Monday, September 8th. Students start demonstrating peacefully in Kathmandu and other places. By lunchtime, large groups, mostly Gen Z, reach Parliament.
The symbolic heart of power.
Exactly. Things were orderly, but then frustration boils over. Some protesters start scaling Parliament walls, entering restricted areas.
And the police response.
It escalated fast. First, tear gas, rubber bullets. But then, tragically, the order was given open fire with live ammunition on students, many still in school
Oh
uniforms.
my God.
The result was horrific. David's report confirms up to 19 killed, including 2 shot dead in Itahari outside Kathmandu. Many victims were just kids in uniform.
That level of violence against students, the fallout must have been immediate.
It was huge and swift. That same night, the Home Minister resigned, citing moral grounds. Then, under intense pressure, Prime Minister Ali lifted the social media ban.
An admission of error, maybe, but too late.
Seems that way, because by then graphic footage, horrific videos and photos of the shootings, the dead young people, was spreading like wildfire across Nepal, shared by outraged citizens.
Fueling the anger even more.
Massively, it just intensified everything, setting the stage for Tuesday.
So Tuesday, September 9th, it wasn't just students anymore.
No. Tuesday morning, mass protests erupted. People of all ages flooded the streets, especially in Kathmandu, and the anger was laser-focused now.
Directed at?
Specifically at politicians involved in corruption. Protesters attacked Parliament again, Singapore, the PM's offices, the high courts, key symbols of the system they felt had failed them. The pressure was immense.
And it led to the PM resigning.
Yes. Amidst this huge public outrage, Prime Minister KP Oli resigned, a stunningly rapid collapse of the government.
And then things got even more chaotic. Politicians fleeing.
Yeah, David describes these dramatic scenes. Politicians literally seen boarding helicopters to escape the unrest. Following Oli's resignation, mobs started targeting the homes of politicians across the country, setting them alight. Some politicians were reportedly beaten.
Businesses too.
Yes, businesses linked to politicians seen as symbols of corrupt wealth were targeted, including, tragically, the Hilton Hotel, which was set on fire.
But David stresses tourists were safe.
Explicitly, he says, tourists and the public were cared for and unharmed. The anger was very specifically directed at politicians and their assets, but the scale of it, the smoke and fire near the airport, even caused Kathmandu International Airport to close temporarily.
Wow. And then the army stepped in.
By Tuesday evening, yes. Recognizing the breakdown, the army issued a statement saying they would host a meeting involving protesters, civilians, the president, political groups to find a solution, signaling a move towards some kind of managed transition.
It's just incredible, though, amidst all that chaos,
Yeah,
how organized the Gen Z group seemed to be, not just protesting, but thinking ahead.
that's maybe the most hopeful part of this. Wednesday morning, September 10th, after all that violence and destruction, you had hashtag Gen Z groups out voluntarily cleaning the streets in Kathmandu before any official curfew.
That's remarkable, a real act of civic duty.
It really was. Showed commitment, maturity. The Army also played a role, ensuring burnt vehicles were cleared, roads opened, letting essential services run. But the key moment was later on Wednesday.
The meeting with the army.
Yes. 19 hashtag Gen Z protesters actually met with the Army command to discuss their demands. That in itself is huge, recognizing them as a legitimate voice.
And they didn't just show up with complaints, did they? They had a plan.
An incredibly strategic one. They put forward a concrete proposal for who should lead an interim government.
Who did they propose?
Their top choice, former Chief Justice Sushila Karki. She's widely respected, seen as fair, crucially non-corrupt, exactly what people were demanding. And they backed her with their second choice, the popular mayor of Kathmandu, Balendra Shah, another figure seen as outside the old corrupt system.
So not just anger, but a thought-out political strategy.
Absolutely. It showed amazing foresight, organization, understanding of the public mood, and what kind of leadership was needed to restore trust, way beyond just a protest movement.
Okay, so government collapses, protests rage, Gen Z steps up with a leadership proposal. What happens now? How does Nepal move forward from this? What are the actual steps?
Well, constitutionally, the president has a key role. David's article mentions the president himself is a former PM and apparently got beaten up in the protests. But legally, he's the one who must dissolve parliament to allow a new government to form.
And the army's role?
They seem to be acting as facilitators, hosting meetings between everyone, president, protesters, politicians, civilians, trying to ensure stability and guide things along a constitutional path rather than taking over themselves.
Seems positive.
Yeah.
And the Gen Z proposal for Sushila Karki, does that have traction?
It seems like the most logical and probably popular way forward. Given her reputation as a former Chief Justice, known for integrity, she's seen as the ideal interim leader to steady the ship and rebuild trust.
And then elections.
That would be the next step, in due course. An interim government led by someone like Karki would oversee the process leading to new elections, letting the people choose their path forward.
Sounds straightforward, but politics is rarely simple,
Yeah.
right? What are the potential roadblocks? The old guard won't just disappear.
Exactly. David warns the only hiccup might be political games, delays from the president, maneuvering by former prime ministers, the old establishment trying to cling to power or influence the outcome.
But Gen Z anticipated this.
It seems so. This is where their digital savvy really shines. David says the old guard have underestimated Nepal's students. While the politicians were playing games, the students apparently took to Discord, the online platform, and held their own votes on who they wanted as interim PM.
Seriously, they ran their own digital primary.
Basically, yeah. And their vote came out clear. Sushila Karki first, Balin Shah second. They essentially created their own mandate digitally, showing they can outwit the establishment at their own game. It's pretty remarkable ingenuity.
So this sets up two clear possibilities for the immediate future.
That's how David frames it. Scenario 1, the optimistic path. If you read in the news that Sushila Karki is nominated, then all will likely be well in the short term and elections will be called. A smooth transition respecting the public mood.
And scenario 2.
More cautionary. If not, meaning if Karki's nominated perhaps due to political games, then unrest is likely, and the military would likely take charge until elections. A more interventionist route, but still aimed at eventual elections.
But overall, the assessment is hopeful.
Yeah, David concludes either way Nepal should be good, suggesting a fundamental resilience. But then he leaves us with that really intriguing question to think about.
Right. What happens when the old political axis comes out of hiding? That's another story. It reminds us the struggle for real change might be longer term.
Exactly. The immediate crisis might pass, but the underlying dynamics remain.
Now, David Wei's account is incredibly detailed, really unflinching. But he also included this really interesting personal reflection on why he chose not to share graphic images this time, despite being right there.
Yes, his ethics above money section. It's a powerful statement in today's media environment, isn't it?
It really is. It highlights the responsibility that comes with documenting events like this.
He says he deliberately avoided sharing his own photos of the protests, the confrontations, and especially the dead and injured. Which is notable because he's covered Nepal's turbulent times before he even wrote a guide on surviving Bendas back in the day, which he says is still relevant.
So it's not like he's shying away from the reality. It's a conscious choice based on experience.
And frustration, it seems. He talks about these non-reciprocal relationships with international media. He'd share info, contacts, timelines, correct their mistakes, often for free.
And get nothing back, not even credit.
Rarely, he says. He wasn't after money, just basic acknowledgement. But what really stung was seeing outlets use his free info, make money from it, and then promote, in his words, corrupt business owners, while his contribution, his perspective, was erased.
That's a harsh indictment of how local sources can be exploited.
It is. And his decision this time seems deeply affected by witnessing the violence up close.
The shootings in Kathmandu.
Yes. He writes about seeing horrors up close. A teenage boy in a school uniform shot in the head, a young man shot from behind while just walking. He says it hit him hard that these kids were protesting for the very things he's always fought for, honesty, anti-corruption. And now they were dying because of that corruption.
That's incredibly powerful. And he connects it to an earlier experience.
The 2008 Tibet riots. He had footage, graphic evidence of violence the Chinese government denied. Media offered huge sums, $10K to $30. But the locals who helped him escape begged him not to release it, fearing identification and disappearance.
And he didn't release it.
Never. Even though it meant being blocked from China, it shows this long-standing commitment. People's safety comes before the scoop, before the money. That explains why no graphic images this time either. Human impact over sensationalism.
And this commitment to honesty, to exposing corruption in Nepal, has cost him personally over the years.
Hugely. He says it clearly. Exposing helicopter scams, trekking fraud, other scams has cost me dearly. Finances, friendships, health, business opportunities.
But he stands by it.
Absolutely. He takes pride in his 100% honest guidebooks and makes this really poignant point. When corrupt businesses were torched in these protests, the ones in my books still stand. It's like a validation of his ethical approach.
Wow, that's quite something.
And amidst all this seriousness, he shares that little moment of connection, being called uncle by the Gen Z protesters, even finding a moment of shared laughter amidst the chaos. It shows his deep connection to the place.
So bringing it back to our listeners, especially those thinking about traveling to Nepal, what's David's bottom line advice?
It's clear and practical. First, reassurance. Things are settling. No immediate need for tourists to panic about safety. Second, manage expectations. Don't expect elections for months. This transition will take time.
And be careful about the news.
Definitely. He warns, don't fall for sensationalism in the media. Seek out credible sources. The good news is Nepal is up and running again. And for practical tips on handling any lingering disruptions, check out his Bandas guide linked in the article.
Still relevant. And he'll keep posting updates.
Yes, he says he'll post immediate updates on X Twitter, so that's a good source for real-time on-the-ground info. So, what we've really explored today is, well, it's a testament, isn't it, to the power of people, especially young people, finally saying enough after decades of corruption. It's still fluid, yes, but the core message feels like resilience, determination, a push for a real new beginning.
Absolutely. A government collapse is huge. It's disruptive. But like David Way suggests, maybe it's also the sign of a potential new dawn. It's a story of incredible courage, civic action. And for travelers, it's a reminder that beneath the headlines, the heart of Nepal, its people, its spirit, is still vibrant and welcoming.
We definitely encourage you to stay informed, keep learning about how things develop there. And if you are looking for that authentic, independent, ethically researched insight into Nepal,
David Way's work is the place to go.
absolutely. His website, The Longest Way Home Nepal Travel website, and his guidebooks, his commitment to honest reporting is so valuable, especially now, a rare resource, really.
Well, that's it for this look into Nepal's whirlwind 72 hours and the forces shaping its future. Thanks for joining us on this journey. We look forward to exploring more crucial stories with you next time. Stay curious, everyone. Stay informed and stay ethical.